of Scripture. But you also see when Jesus comes, he turns that around, and he begins to show us a new way of being together in the world. And the very first person he talks to with a deep theological issue is a woman,
Yes,
um, right? And she becomes the first evangelist in Scripture.
absolutely. It seems like some have gotten, and they don't necessarily even have to be white Christian nationalists, but some
Mhm.
people, if my social media is to be believed, have drifted an awfully long distance from fundamental tenets that were
Yes.
espoused by Jesus. I mean,
Hmm.
this is not a guy who hung out with rich folks, okay?
That's
He
right.
wasn't. He hung out with poor people. And I've
Hmm.
always been kind of startled by the notion that some Christians will twist Jesus' teachings to make it seem as though he was something very different from what certainly the people that influenced me taught
Right.
us to believe he was.
Right. Well, I mean, I have a really good friend, excuse me, Reverend Renee August, in South Africa. She is amazing. She actually works with us with Freedom Road, the consulting group that I am the president of. And her favorite question of scripture is, who benefits from this read of it? And when you look at a particular read of the text, a particular interpretation, she'll ask, okay, who benefits from that interpretation? For example, the understanding that men are supposed to rule over women, and it's not good or right for women to rule. Even when you look at the actual text and you see Paul lift up multiple women in the book of Romans, and actually at the end of every book he's always given a high five and like the peace sign, hey, to the women in the church. And he actually mentions Junius, who is a woman who was an apostle. He says she went to jail with me. I call her,
Mhm.
if you don't mind, badass Junia. So
No,
Junia.
it's fine with me. No problem.
Junia was, I mean, she was like the first badass woman, in the tag, or not the first, but like one of the most badass. And, so we see these women who actually are huge leaders in the text, and yet um, there are pastors and Bible study teachers and others who will literally not ever even mention them, probably never even learned about them, and they will only focus on very situation specific texts, like Timothy, where he's talking directly to Timothy about a particular issue that's going on in the church, and they will make that for everyone in all time. Who
Incredible.
benefits? Who
Who
benefits?
benefits? That's funny. That to me was the cornerstone of critical thinking. Who benefits? Whether
Exactly.
it's financial, mental, or whatever. But let me ask you, we got a couple of minutes before you have to take a break.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about Freedom Road.
Oh, well, Freedom Road, we are a consulting group that's dedicated to shrinking the gap between our narratives. I mean, one of the things that we really exist to do is to help folks to do justice in more just ways. And we do that by creating shared experiences that bring common understanding and lead to common action in the public square. So we create pilgrimages that people can go through, and they go and they walk on the land where stuff happened and hear from the people that it happened to. And as a result, their worldview gets to be widened. Or we do consulting where we create experiences for communities to help the whole community move through this transformational experience. We also have writing groups and things like that. And I speak all over the place, and coaching as well. So our whole thing is that everything we do believes in the power of story and narrative, because
Mhm.
narrative shapes the world, because it shapes our worldview, and worldview is what we vote from. So
Absolutely.
right.
But I got to ask you though, well, and we have to take another break. But one of the things that I've been really curious about is how you find common ground with people whose seeming stated intention is to
Yes.
grind you into the dust. I mean, some of the
Hmm.
stuff, some of the things that they espouse, and they've been very crafty about doing it. They take over
Hmm.
school boards, they
Hmm.
implement bans on books in libraries. They took critical race theory and twisted it into something that was unrecognizable
That's
by
right.
the people who crafted it, and yet it's almost as though progressive people like yourself end up losing the narrative to these people who really have no clue. And I mean, maybe it's because they have the ear of the media. Maybe it's because, their flock believe in this more fervently than other people do. I don't know.
Mm.
But I find it absolutely incredible. Just like I find incredible that supposedly half the country supports Donald Trump. But that's another discussion for another day.
Well, I think 40, it's at the very, very top, it's 40% support Donald Trump, and he really only has a real base of about 30%. And that's why I don't focus on trying to win over that 30% that are just adherents, right? Like I'm
Mhm.
just not, that's not where we go. We go to the people who are movable, who actually are seeking another way to be in the world. And so it's they who come to us and it's we who go to them. And so we're always trying to move the worldviews and widen the worldviews of people who, if they were one, that they would actually help us to create the foundation of the next world, the foundation of the next way of being together in the world.
Think. Sorry. Hold that thought because we're going to come back after the break and talk more with our very special guest, Lisa Sharon Harper. This is the Tavis Smiley program. We'll be back.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The Carolinas are preparing for possible floods, heavy winds, and tornadoes as a potential tropical storm is set to make landfall. The National Hurricane Center says the storm will hit South Carolina this afternoon and then move inland over both states overnight. One of the Colorado paramedics convicted in the death of African-American Elijah McClain has been ordered released from prison. Peter Chikuniak was sentenced to 5 years in prison earlier this year after he was found guilty of criminally negligent homicide. The first-grade Sandy Hook survivors will vote in their first presidential election. The teens met with and told their descriptions of the Sandy Hook shootings to Vice President Kamala Harris at the White House on National Gun Violence Awareness Day on June 6th before their high school graduation. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Hey Amazon Prime members, why pay more for groceries? Shop Prime exclusive deals at your local Amazon Fresh grocery store and get savings on thousands of grocery items. Save up to 50% on weekly grocery favorites and 10% on Amazon brands. Find an Amazon Fresh store near you. Select varieties.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Chargers are one of 9 NFL teams to start the season 2-0. They won by 23 in Carolina. For the second straight week, the Chargers had more rushing yards than passing yards, 219 to 130. Running back J.K. Dobbins had 131 yards and a touchdown. Dobbins has 266 yards rushing in the Chargers' first 2 games. The Chargers are at undefeated Pittsburgh next Sunday. The Rams are 0-2 after losing by 31 at Arizona. The Rams defense gave up 489 yards in total offense. The Rams play their home opener next Sunday against San Francisco. All 6 of the NFL's black head coaches are in the win column. Tampa Bay's Todd Bowles and the Las Vegas Raiders' Antonio Pierce got their first win of the season Sunday. Both wins came on the road. Tampa Bay at Detroit and the Raiders in Baltimore. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Get organics on sale at Whole Foods Market. Save on organic Honeycrisp apples through September 17th. Make a spiced apple dessert to get in the fall spirit. While supplies last, shop in-store or online. Terms apply.
Mom, meet Sarah.
From first-time Nana moments.
Yeah, welcome to Flight 101.
To annual girls trip moments. Your can't-miss moments are worth protecting against RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV. And there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com.
So where should we go next?
Sponsored by Pfizer.
You might wonder, John Legend, how do you keep your voice sounding so legendary? Honey. And how do I keep my protection against COVID-19 up to date? With a COVID shot this season, designed for recent variants.
You can get your COVID-19 shot when getting your flu shot if you're due for both, as recommended by the CDC.
The fresher, the better.
Ask your healthcare provider about getting this season's COVID-19 shot when getting your flu shot.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and clear skin, count me in. With Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
I occasionally have nerve discomfort in my hands, so the things I love to do
Let's play something, Grandma.
became difficult as I got older.
If you have occasional stabbing and burning in your hands and feet, try Nervive Nerve Relief. Nervive's clinically studied dose of alpha-lipoic acid reduces occasional nerve discomfort in as little as 7 days with continued daily use. Say yes to healthy nerves with Nervive Nerve Relief.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
That's right. More dialogue with our very special guest. And by the way, I'm not Tavis Smiley. I'm Mark Riley. Lisa Sharon Harper, thank you so much for sticking with us. If you would talk to us a bit about the film Bad Faith, what do you know about it?
Oh, wow. Bad Faith is fabulous. It is one of a few different documentaries that came out this last spring and summer about white Christian nationalism. And I would say everybody must go out and see it. You also must go out and see True Believers, which is another film that came out that I'm also in. And both of them are really both essential watching. Bad Faith does this incredible epic walk through the history of white Christian nationalism in recent history, basically the latter part of the 20th century, asking the question of how did we get here? How did we get to January 6th? Mm-hmm. And then True Believer, which is, again, I really want to say everybody needs to go see this or find a way to see it. You can go to truebelieverfilm.com to check it out. It actually traces the story of a mother and daughter who actually are moving out of a white Christian nationalist church. So it's a really intimate picture, and it is powerful. I cried for 20 minutes at the end of that film while the credits.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Incredible. Now, let me ask you this, because it dawns on me at a point that white Christian nationalism would seem to me in a global context to be a very narrow religion and very narrow religious views. I mean, there are all kinds of religions all over the globe.
Yeah.
If one group of people believe they have the corner on the true religion, how do they deal with everybody else?
That's a good question there. Well, I mean, think about it. I mean, one of the things that is fundamental to fundamentalism, which is in every faith, right? It's not just in Christian faith, it's also in Muslim and in Buddhist and Hindu faith. I mean, everybody has a fundamentalist strain in their faith, Muslim. And so the thing that is true in the Christian faith is that that's where you're going to find those strains that say we are the ones who have the lock on it, right? We're the only ones who understand what is true here. And then out of that came this aberration in the mid 20th century, starting in the 1960s and 70s, and then exploding really with after Bob Jones University lost its case in with the Supreme Court. They were fighting to maintain pure white space, and they lost that case. But they realized in the middle of the fight for that they had actually built a movement, and it was and at the end of that struggle and that they lost, that they looked around and they said, we actually have something here. What are we going to use to keep it going? And that's when they decided to focus on turning over the Supreme Court. That was going to be their way to reclaim white supremacy in America, because they realized with Brown versus the Board of Education, right? And with Brown standing as the foundation for the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, they needed to knock out Brown. But the only way to do that was actually then to overturn or to tip the scales of the court and make it a conservative court, because never in the history of the Supreme Court in the United States has a conservative majority court ever protected the rights of minorities. So that became their thing. And the way that they decided to do it was not to focus on race. At that point, they decided we can't focus on race anymore. It's not gauche. It's not in. So what we can do with the rise of feminism, which was coming up around the same time, and the ERA, is we can focus on abortion. And so they took that flag and they ran with it. And that is the reason why we now have the court that we have that has done what it did in terms of overturning Roe v. Wade. They won.
See, this is what I'm curious about. If you look at it from a purely religious standpoint, what vehicle did they use to get that Supreme Court turned? They used a vehicle of a thrice married guy who actually went on television and said, said he dated his daughter if it wasn't his daughter. I mean, there are all of these things that would, under normal circumstances, I would think, make anybody who espouses religion say, I can't deal with this guy. Yet they did. Why?
Yeah, yet they did. Oh, well, I'll tell you what, because they did, a lot of people are streaming out of the white evangelical church right now. I mean, they are losing. I mean, whole universities, whole like Christian colleges are shutting down. They're closed. I mean, I'm hearing about this. They're closing departments. Just last week, I heard about 2 separate seminaries that are closing departments because folk are just flocking from the white evangelical faith because they have lost their credibility. And how could they do it? They did it because they were captured by power. They were captured by the lure of power. And starting in the 1980s, when that religious right movement began with the Christian Coalition, which actually came after the moral majority, all of that stuff, that all began to give evangelicals, which until that point had actually not engaged in the public square because of the embarrassment they suffered in the monkey trials back in the early 1900s, the 1920s, 30s.
Yeah.
They suffered embarrassment, so they kind of went inward. And it wasn't until the rise of the religious right that they began to taste, oh, we can do this. And then they got Reagan. Reagan said, I'm going to be your president. And the very first place that, I don't know if you know this, but Reagan, the very first place he visited when he...
Mississippi.
Yes, Philadelphia, Mississippi, to launch his presidential campaign. Hello. And the first location that he visited once he gained the presidency was where? Bob Jones University.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
place his support behind segregation of that Christian campus.
By the way, is Bob Jones University still around?
Yes, it is. It
It
is.
is, okay.
But they have since said they're sorry. I wrote about them a while back in one of my books, and I think it was actually an Evangelical Does Not Equal Republican or Democrat, my first book ever. And when at that time I went on their website, there was no apology, there was no acknowledgement of that time. And then maybe a year after, I went back on the website, and now they have an apology. So that's nice.
Well, they learn from their mistakes, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
But I got to ask you this, and we can carry this over the break because we have to do a break fairly soon.
Okay.
America supposedly was founded on the separation of church and state. Yet
Hello?
it seems as though over time that line has been blurred, crossed, stomped on. It just seems to no longer exist. It seems as though people who believe, for example, that a fetus is a person and they have a religious basis for believing that, they're now in politics and they're winning. That's the part that really kind of sort of troubles me a wee bit. Does it trouble you?
Well, I would say that they won and now they're losing. And we can talk about that on the other side, but it just, I guess until we get to that break, they're losing now because they did win and now they're suffering the unintended and sometimes intended consequences of that win. So they did overturn Roe v. Wade, but now what they're having to do is they're having to face the reality that they have true extremists in their midst who are now trying to outlaw IVF and contraception. Come on now.
Yes. Yes.
So it is about full control of human bodies, of women's bodies. And that comes from that line of patriarchy, which is endemic to white Christian nationalism.
I got to tell you, I have always thought that a big part of this was absolute fear on some people's parts of the power of women. If it's unleashed, the power of women to an extent control men's lives. And I find it amazing because I'm seeing all the social media that is based on that premise. And I don't, for the life of me, understand it. We got to take a break. Our guest is Lisa Sharon Harper. This has been a most stimulating almost hour. Stay with.
That's great.
Yeah, this is the Tavis Smiley program. My name is Mark Riley. We'll be forward.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone, and should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
I occasionally have nerve discomfort in my hands, so the things I love to do
Let's play something, Grandma.
became difficult as I got older.
If you have occasional stabbing and burning in your hands and feet, try Nervive Nerve Relief. Nervive's clinically studied dose of alpha-lipoic acid reduces occasional nerve discomfort in as little as 7 days with continued daily use. Say yes to healthy nerves with Nervive Nerve Relief.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
10 minutes before the hour. This is the Tavis Smiley program. My name is Mark Riley. Coming up in our next hour, our next and final hour of this day, Norman Solomon, journalist, agitator, troublemaker, which is why I really like him. He has a new book, War Made Invisible: How America Hides the Human Toll of the Military Machine. Our guest right now is Lisa Sharon Harper, theologian, activist, and also troublemaker. Now, let me ask you, because this is something that has always fascinated me. You fasted for 22 days.
Yes, I did.
Around the issue of immigration, which is certainly a noble cause. But I've always wondered, what was it like? I mean, 22 days is a long time. It's a better part of a month. What happened after the first week? What happened after the 2 weeks? Did you get yen or cravings for anything, or how did that affect you? I'm just curious.
Well, let me tell you, I mean, I lost 30 pounds in 22 days. When I fasted for immigration reform. That's my dog, by the way. I don't know if you can hear her in the background. She always has to have her say. So sorry about that. Her name is Babe.
No,
She's
nothing to be
fabulous.
sorry about. I love dogs.
Thank you. Well, I did. I fasted. It was in 2013, and we were right on the cusp of pushing through comprehensive immigration reform. Speaker Boehner said that he was going to bring the vote to the floor, and he never did. And this was a Hail Mary. And so there were 6 core fasters that all of us fasted 22 days total. There were others who fasted alongside us over the course of about a month, about 5 days at a time, 1 day, 1 week, whatever. And I didn't intend to fast for a whole 22 days. I only intended to fast for 2 days. But I woke up on the second day, literally, and I heard God, in that still small voice when you're praying, I heard God say, as I was waking up, keep fasting and don't stop until I tell you.
Wow.
And so I went back to the tent that day because they were in a white tent on the National Mall. And I said, I'm supposed to keep fasting. And they said, okay. And so it was amazing. And I tell you, fasting is a spiritual practice meant to cut us, to make us sensitive to the impacts and implications of our sin. And by sin, what I mean is anything we do that breaks relationships, breaks the way that things should be in the world. So it's not only, the way that I hurt my brother or sister, but it's also the way that I'm voting and my vote is wrong. My vote is actually hurting millions of brothers and sisters. You hear what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Right? Or I'm legislating. If I'm a legislator, the policies that I'm pushing for are hurting millions of people. And so that's what fasting does. And so we did that. We created that space, a sacred space on the National Mall that became a destination, a pilgrimage destination for legislators throughout Congress and the White House. And so I have a very funny story about this. On the day 18, it was the day after Thanksgiving.
Oh, wow.
And right on like 19 was the day after Thanksgiving. Day 18 was Thanksgiving, and all we had for Thanksgiving was water. Hello, somebody.
Right.
In that white tent. But on day 19, we were with the doctors. We were actually being monitored by doctors from an American university, and they were making sure we were okay. And we were taking vitamins. We were actually getting vitamins, but that was it. And everything else was just water. And so it was incredibly weak. I mean, I had to go sometimes, like the only bathroom, right, that we would have is the museum that was across the way. So I literally would have to walk across the National Mall into the Native American Museum. And every single step that I took was like, it had to be intentional because I didn't have the energy to take the next step
Yeah.
necessarily. It was really
We got to
something
take
else.
another break. I hate to interrupt you like this, but we got to take another break. We'll be right back with a couple of final words. Stay with us.
Okay.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Good morning, Doctor.
Doctor?
Hi, Doctor.
Doctor?
Dr. Jackson's practice is growing.
What do you mean we're still short-staffed?
He needs a good patient doctor.
How do we not have enough doctors to doctor all these patients?
And he doesn't have the patience to sift through hundreds of resumes.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Eggs are a staple in our diets, and there's only one egg with more delicious farm-fresh taste plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best. With more vitamins, including 6 times more vitamin D and 10 times more vitamin E, plus 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. Available in so many delicious varieties: classic, cage-free, and organic. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Well, I don't pretend to be the most knowledgeable person in my circle, but I do get to talk to some of the most knowledgeable people in all circles. And such is Lisa Sharon Harper, our guest. And we've got a couple of minutes left. And I want to ask you a question that I know you may not have the answer to. And you may say, what is wrong with you? But I have to ask you anyway.
Okay.
How do you take religion? Oh, no, better yet, how do you take war out of religion? So many wars have been fought on this planet over the issue of religion. How do you separate the two?
Great question. How do you take war out of religion? You center the image of God. When you understand that every human being is made in the image of God, and what that means is that they were created by God with the divine call and capacity to exercise stewardship of the world, to make decisions that impact the world. My Uber driver was made in the image of God. Your maid, your housekeeper, your au pair, your executive, your mother was made in the image of God. In other words, they were created with the divine call to help shape the world. And yet we were made, we crafted our world into a hierarchy of human belonging where only some people get to actually be fully human. Wars were created in order to establish and entrench that hierarchy. So when you focus on the image of God, you understand that if you bomb the image of God, you are bombing God. You're bombing the kingdom of God. You are at war with God. If you slap the image of God, another human being, you are slapping God on earth. If you lie, you are lying to the image of God. Therefore, all forms of violence are no longer acceptable. And that, of course, includes war.
That is an incredible answer. I wasn't sure you weren't going to say, what the heck did you ask me that for? So I'm really glad you said it, because I think it's important. I think it's important for you. And it's not to castigate any religion, because that's not really what that's about. It's about saying, how do we remove the stigma of war? Although some people think war is a good thing, I guess, if they make money from it. But how do you remove the stigma of war from not just religion, but from life? I mean, we don't have to go to war, I don't think, do we?
No, we don't. We don't have to choose word. There is another way. And that's what I believe what Jesus actually came for. Jesus came to show us another way. When you look at the Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes, blessed are the peacemakers, the shalom makers, the ones who establish right relationship between all things, not those who make war. That is, and when they are in the Garden of Gethsemane and Peter takes out his sword and he tries to cut
I
off
want
the
to cut you
ear.
off, but I have to. I'm so sorry. It's been such a pleasure. We could do this for hours, but
We could.
you take care, and thank you so much for being with us. We're going to take a break. Back shortly.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The Carolinas are preparing for possible floods, heavy winds, and tornadoes as a potential tropical storm is set to make landfall. The National Hurricane Center says the storm will hit South Carolina this afternoon and then move inland over both states overnight. One of the Colorado paramedics convicted in the death of African-American Elijah McClain has been ordered released from prison. Peter Chikuniak was sentenced to 5 years in prison earlier this year after he was found guilty of criminally negligent homicide. The first-grade Sandy Hook survivors will vote in their first presidential election. The teens met with and told their descriptions of the Sandy Hook shootings to Vice President Kamala Harris at the White House on National Gun Violence Awareness Day on June 6th before their high school graduation. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Hey Amazon Prime members, why pay more for groceries? Shop Prime exclusive deals at your local Amazon Fresh grocery store and get savings on thousands of grocery items. Save up to 50% on weekly grocery favorites and 10% on Amazon brands. Find an Amazon Fresh store near you. Select varieties.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Chargers are one of 9 NFL teams to start the season 2-0. They won by 23 in Carolina. For the second straight week, the Chargers had more rushing yards than passing yards, 219 to 130. Running back J.K. Dobbins had 131 yards and a touchdown. Dobbins has 266 yards rushing in the Chargers' first 2 games. The Chargers are at undefeated Pittsburgh next Sunday. The Rams are 0-2 after losing by 31 at Arizona. The Rams defense gave up 489 yards in total offense. The Rams play their home opener next Sunday against San Francisco. All 6 of the NFL's black head coaches are in the win column. Tampa Bay's Todd Bowles and the Las Vegas Raiders' Antonio Pierce got their first win of the season Sunday. Both wins came on the road. Tampa Bay at Detroit and the Raiders in Baltimore. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation.
But they're not letting KBLA 1580 come in. I'm not getting the black man. So let Tavis know